So thanks for this very interesting and lively panel, also for the diversity of point of view that have added richness to the discussion. So Minister Daniele Franco will conclude our conference after this. This was the last panel in our program. Let me just thank everybody on stage, in the audience, and online for the rich contributions that I think have made this conference extremely interesting on a subject that, I dare say, will define our generations in the eyes of the next ones. Daniele, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Federico, and I think it's time to conclude today's long discussions, which I believe have been rich and diversified. I believe that the academic proposals, the analysis developed by international organizations, as well as the commitments and the best practices from the public and the financial sectors, will all be useful to lay the foundation for a stronger international climate action. They will help G20 policymakers in developing a better coordinated policy response. And hopefully they will set the stage for a successful COP26 next autumn. I think we all understand, especially after today, that achieving net zero is complex and challenging and requires a flexible strategy that takes account of the differences between advanced and emerging and less developed economies. We need to complement policies and regulatory action with well-designed market-based mechanisms. We need to use all the instruments at our disposal to achieve our goals in a smooth and in an efficient way, minimizing the cost of the transition, the effects on the most vulnerable part of the population, the most vulnerable countries, and the risks for the financial system. I thank the international partners who provided an exhaustive overview of the appropriate policy mix to achieve net zero targets. A comprehensive strategy is crucial to promote a global just transition and make our economies resource efficient and competitive. The three key elements of a comprehensive approach should be, first, green investments and innovation. Second, fiscal and market-based mechanisms such as carbon pricing to get the price right and incorporate climate externalities. Third, support to the most vulnerable to accelerate the green transition and make it more inclusive and politically viable. Actually, the recovery from the pandemic is a one-time chance to promote a paradigm shift to transform our economies. All countries should be part of the green transition, but as we saw also today, achieving net zero is more demanding for emerging markets and developing economies, which face an increase in demand for energy driven by both industrialization and rising consumption. I think Lamia made this point earlier on very clearly. The role of multinational development banks is strategic for supporting transition in these countries. Furthermore, the conference has made us even more aware that climate action needs closer cooperation between public and private institutions. Regulatory and supervisory frameworks are very important to encourage the private sector in supporting innovative investments and technologies. Let me conclude by saying a few words on behalf of the G20 presidency. This conference will be essential to feed and enrich the next G20 discussions. As you know, the Italian G20 presidency has put since its beginning the protection of the planet at the core of the finance track debate. We relaunched the Sustainable Finance Study Group, and as you know, we have two co-chairs, the United States and China, and we are very happy about that. And we will soon discuss the roadmap of the study group for the coming years. Last April, in the update of the G20 Action Plan, the most significant innovation was the introduction of a fourth pillar dedicated to protecting the planet. Yesterday, the G20 signed a communiqué with several important commitments. G20 members agreed that a closer international coordination on climate action is critical. We have committed to continuing discussing the best policy mix to shape a just and orderly transition. We have also concurred that support should be granted to the poorest and the most vulnerable. We have encouraged multilateral development banks to step up their effort to pursue alignment with the Paris Agreement within ambitious timeframes. Finally, we have stressed that international climate finance is critical for supporting developing countries' climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. I'm confident that this conference is serving its intended purpose, building the political momentum to make sure that climate change remains on top of the global agenda, including the future G20 works, shaping the right path toward a successful COP26. Distinguished guests, eminent participants, allow me to thank you again for having shared your insightful views and experiences and for having made this conference a success. Finally, I would like to thank all those who have helped us organizing today's conference, but I would say the last 3 days of meetings in Venice. I would like to thank the local authorities and all the colleagues from the Bank of Italy and the Ministry of the Economy and Finance. I mean, you all did really a great job. So thank you very much. And also thank you very much and also, finally, thank you very much for arranging a great weather. Having said that, I'll close my conclusions, and now let us focus on tonight's match. All the best.